Hey, Adni fam, it is Anthony, and today I'm so excited to be joined by Braden Boakes, who is a healthcare staffing recruiter at TNAA, or Travel Nurse Across America. And I'm particularly excited to talk to Braden because he is the real deal, you guys. He has won multiple awards. He actually was just ranked as a top rated recruiter by Great Recruiters this past month. So thank you so much for joining us, Braden. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here.
Would love to start at the beginning. I always love to understand the stories of our guests on the Huddle podcast. Maybe you could just share with our listeners a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got to where you are today.
What a long and winding path that is. I'll keep it brief, which goes against every southern bone in my body. I started out before I was in staffing. I worked as a buyer for a billion-dollar retail company, and so I was used to working with big companies that aren't really that different from hospitals. But I worked with companies like Google and Apple and Nest, and dealt with a lot of contract negotiations there. I hit the point that everybody hits in retail where you just don't want to do it anymore. Like the hours are awful. You're dealing with Amazon. You just need a change. And I had a buddy that I worked with, and he came into healthcare staffing about a year before I did. And every single time I saw him after he left, he told me how fantastic this job was and how much he loved travel nurses. And I had never heard of it, and before COVID, most people didn't really know what travel nursing was. So I assumed he was trying to sell me into this multi-level marketing, Kirby vacuum type thing, and he was going to be selling me the Cutco knives. And I hit the point where I was like, you know what, whatever. I'll give it a try. And when he tries to give me the hard sell on like becoming my own girl boss or whatever it was, I'll just use it, and I'll use it as a chance just to find something else. So I came on with a different agency, and lo and behold, it's not a pyramid scheme. Like, it's a real thing. Travel nursing is this huge industry, and it's even bigger now. And I loved it. Like, I loved every second of it. I love talking to people. I love connecting. I love finding like solutions to puzzles, and everything about working on this side of travel healthcare just it's sang to me. And so I've stuck with it. I'm a little bit over 6 years into it now.
Wow,
And I love every day.
that's amazing. You had kind of the perfect timing where you got to see healthcare staffing before the pandemic, during, and after. How was it before, and how do you feel like it's changed during the 6 years you've been doing recruiting?
Oh man. Yeah, that's interesting. So I think the biggest shift that we saw here was pre-COVID. Um, Travel nursing was a really good way for a lot of people to get out, try new hospitals, try new areas, see things. Like, it was a cool way to make a little bit more money than you were making as staff. But most of the time, it was giving people a lot of flexibility, a lot of professional growth, and the real benefits to travel nursing wasn't necessarily like the financial gain. It was more just the interpersonal and the professional growth. Then we saw COVID hit, and everything just fell apart. And that's outside of just the medical industry. That's everything just collapsed. And the world needed help. And so travel nursing was this apparatus that was already in place to rapidly get healthcare workers anywhere. And suddenly the hospitals were fighting because they needed help everywhere. And so the rates blew up, and it became this massive financial gain, because it was essentially, it was a dangerous job. Everybody was getting hazard pay. And so it shifted this whole market to where people were traveling because they wanted to travel, to traveling because they felt called to, and were getting paid a lot to do it. And then the kind of, this feels really dramatic to say, but the destruction to our industry that kind of came with COVID winding down, and trying to rebuild this industry and just kind of like the medical field as a whole has been kind of tough to watch. From the hospital perspectives, they're broke. Like CFOs are just, they're in panic mode still, trying to figure out how to get this hospital system that we have, by our own design, made into a, for the most part, a profit system. There's no money coming in from the government, so they're trying to find ways to get back in the black. Housing has gotten more expensive. Food has gotten more, like this whole world has gotten more expensive. And so it's hard to look at like pre-COVID rates and saying that like, hey, we're still higher than pre-COVID, but the world's not pre-COVID. So
Yeah.
it's been really challenging to watch healthcare workers go through the transition from I can get a job anywhere at any time for whatever money I want to trying to just find things where people can kind of survive. And again, that sounds kind of dramatic, but it's kind of true.
Yeah.
Just finding the balance again and trying to get us all back to a spot where this can go back to being an industry where people can travel, they can grow professionally, and still make a little bit more money than they did staff.
That was
Sorry,
such
that was a
great
little
overview.
long-winded, but I'm very
No, I
passionate
loved it.
about the transition from
Yeah.
like these big like transitions in this industry.
It's been so interesting to watch, honestly. Like I mean, I worked as like a perm nurse during the pandemic, and then now kind of entered the more like business startup tech side to it. And I think it's been really interesting to see the past few years and how the market has shifted and just so many moving parts. It's really, really fascinating. And I think that sometimes when you're kind of boots on the ground working bedside, it's sometimes hard to see those trends. So it's really helpful to kind of hear your explanation of it, Braden. Through all of this, obviously you have a front row seat to, these shifts as a healthcare recruiter. For folks who, maybe don't know as much about the industry, what really is a healthcare recruiter in the most basic sense? And like, what is like a traditional day in your life? And how do you work with travel nurses and clinicians?
So at the very core of what I think, not just me, but a good recruiter in this industry, somebody that's going to be able to, has been around for a while. This is a relationship job. And a lot of people will hear recruiter and they think that, okay, relationship between me and a traveler, somebody that's looking for a job. And yes, that's true at the, like just the ground floor. That is what I do. But there's a lot of nuances to that don't really get considered. So my job is to have a relationship with my travelers. I'm there because they are sometimes across the country. They don't have as much of a support system. They're by themselves. They're learning new things. I have a relationship there. I also have a relationship with account managers within my company. I have relationships with sometimes account managers or people that work in vendor positions outside my company. I've got relationships with hospitals and understanding the hospitals and the different units and how they work. And I pull all these relationships together to get the traveler from A to B of a job that not only they're going to get paid at, but that they're going to enjoy, that they're not going to be at, risk with their license at, that they're going to enjoy the area and the time outside of work, because you don't want to do this job just to go to work. Like, you want to live, so you've got to go places that you can do that. So I think that that's the biggest core of the recruiter job, is just having all these relationships and kind of understanding the bigger picture, because it is really hard as a travel nurse. Sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees, if that makes sense. And they get very laser focused on certain parts of their job, and it's kind of my job to be aware of everything else and to help them make just the best decisions for themselves that they can.
I love that you use the word like relationship, because I think that I've seen that so much come up when I'm talking to travelers, is how, they really have loyalty to the recruiter, not to the agency. And I think that the trust and rapport that they build like with their recruiter can really make their experience so much better, like regardless of what happens that you can't control. Like the contract gets canceled or the contract gets extended or, whatever happens. I think if you can have that solid relationship with your recruiter and have that trust, it really, really makes an impact. So as someone who is, a award-winning recruiter, I'm curious, like, how do you feel that like relationship does make an impact with your current travelers, and what are some ways that you try to be there for your travelers and kind of keep that human process a part of the staffing experience? Just because I feel like sometimes when you think of the pandemic, it felt like very transactional. It was like, oh my gosh, here's a contract, like get it, like go, like get that money.
Right.
I think now it's really like, it's, I don't know, it's different. So yeah, curious to hear your experiences in that regard.
So I joke with my travelers that I'm too old to find new friends. Like we're adults
Yeah.
here. Like who's going out finding new friends? My daughter just
Right.
started kindergarten, and she every day she's coming home. She's like, I made a new friend. I've got Stella's my new friend. This is my new bestie. My bestie's this person. We're not doing that. Like I've got 4 friends, and
Yeah.
that's all I really have any energy to find anymore. So my joke with my travelers is, look, I will help you out professionally throughout this entire process. The only thing I ask is you have to be my friend. We have to be friends.
Yeah.
And if that's something that doesn't work for you, that's okay. Like if you're more comfortable with the transactional relationship, I can do that, but just know that it's not what I'm best at. So, I've made some of my best friends doing this. So the relationship part of this is important. And it's important to a lot of people. I've been to weddings. I've been to baby showers. I've been to funerals with my travelers. And I think that's the part that kind of helps everybody in this industry kind of just keep their sanity about it. Because if you make it this transactional process, if you can operate like that, that's great. And a lot of people can. But if you can't, keeping the human aspect's really important, because if you don't, the fact that yes, it's kind of a transactional type industry. Contracts get canceled sometimes, and it happens, and it sucks. Compliance means you get pushed 2 weeks, and you've got to juggle that. Like, there's a lot of stress. So finding recruiters, finding partners, finding friends that you can lean on, and building a support system within this industry is really important to travelers. It should be for travelers, because normal people don't understand this industry. Like, they just don't. So finding people that understand what you're talking about when you are complaining about, hey, my start date for my job got pushed 2 weeks. That's important. And that's what I try and offer. And that's who I try and connect with, are people that want that relationship.
Yeah, because I think so much of like your role as a recruiter too is like helping to educate and helping to like be a source of information as things are going on. Because even if you're a new traveler, like you might not understand like all the nitty gritty things of your contract or how some of these processes work. So I think that having that person who's experienced and kind of walk you through it, I think is really important. And something that I think a lot about is like a nurse and all the kind of technology that's entered this space. I think especially since the pandemic, I feel like there was a spotlight put on nursing, put on travel nursing, and I think a lot of technology companies and people saw like the opportunity to maybe make some things more efficient or make a lot of money kind of implementing different technologies. But I don't know, I just feel like this is an industry that at the end of the day, like you can't automate completely. Like you can't take away that human touch, because if you're in a different city that you've never been and you don't really have anyone to call, but you just have like an app or some AI thing that's going to help you, like I think it really kind of hurts the experience. But I'm curious, from your lens as such an experienced recruiter, like how have you felt the technology has evolved in the past 6 years, and like what do you see as the future of technology in the healthcare staffing industry?
I answered a question similar to this like 4 years ago. And it was when some of the other agencies came out that were like fully technology recruiterless model type agencies. And it was, I remember when they launched, it was this big hoopla of like technology's taken over and AI, pretty soon we're not going to need recruiters. We're going to have AI and all that. And I think we're seeing that with AI more recently as well, of like they're going to take a lot of jobs and a lot of things. And that's fine. Like, I worked in technology before I was in healthcare. It takes a lot of glitz and glamour with technology to really kind of faze me these days. So I think that the key thing that we're going to see out of technology is everything moves so much faster now. So you can't build trust with an AI robot, but you can build trust with somebody who has that AI or that technology as a tool. You need to build trust with them so that they can utilize those tools to get you jobs faster, to get you submitted faster, to get your profile in front of a manager faster. And I think that's where we're going to start to see kind of this shift. There was like this big push towards eliminating recruiters and just going to technology. And I think that we started to find, and we've started to kind of backpedal from that, because we're starting to find that those relationships are still so important, and you can't reproduce that. So I think we're starting to find the balance where technology is more of a tool than it is a replacement. And I'm pretty excited to see the direction that we go from here now that we've kind of, in my mind, gotten back on the right path with technology.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love using it as a tool. Like, it's for sure going to make things more efficient, faster. I think we all want that. No one has to want to submit their documents 50 times to 50 different places. Like, no one wants back and forth phone calls and text. But I think, still having those opportunities to build trust is important. And I guess speaking of trust and also building your network, one thing that stood out to me about you, Braden, was kind of your use of social media to connect with folks. And I'm curious, like on the marketing side for your own kind of personal brand, like how have you leveraged social media to kind of get your name out there and, be able to build your network of travelers?
Social media is so fun because every time I think I've got it figured out, it changes on me. And I've tried everything. Like, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and every social media platform kind of has where they excel just a little bit better and a little bit different. And so I have always been really, really comfortable on the internet. I think it's crazy that we've moved to a point where, like, when we were growing up, our parents said, don't get into cars with strangers and don't talk to strangers on the internet. And now we call cars with Uber, and just hop into any random vehicle, and all my friends are like people I met on the internet. So I think that social media is a cool tool where you can put yourself out there. When I'm talking to new travelers or like experienced travelers, I tell them, like, end of the day, everybody has jobs, everybody's got pay packages, like everybody's got a 401k match, like the benefits, like what this job is. Agencies, they're really not that different. They kind of all offer similar things, some of them more and some of them less. What your experience is going to be different is the people that you interact with and how that process works. And social media has made it really easy for me to put myself out there as like a real human being. I'm here to laugh. I'm a jokester. Like, I love making people laugh, and I've been able to do that through social media, but I've been able to cultivate myself as just this real person.
Yeah.
And it makes the people that I work with more comfortable working with me, referring their friends to me, and just having an experience where they have somebody that they can trust, because I'm a real guy. I'm not just somebody on the other end of the phone that's telling them about this job. So
yeah. I think that's so important. It kind of goes back to like keeping that human element a part of the staffing process, is, also just knowing like who is behind the phone and what is going on behind the scenes and getting to know the person. I think social media is definitely like a great tool for that. Braden. Oh, go ahead.
I have one quick story just about social media. If you go back far enough, you can find some posts on Facebook where I don't know if there's any other recruiters out there that have done this. Did you know that you can mail just about anything you want through the United States Postal Service as long as you can get an address and stamps on it? I have mailed just loose potatoes. At one point, I mailed loose potatoes to every traveler that I worked with. And I wrote it's really sweet potato working with you, or just something like that. And I was
That's
shipping these things to
hilarious.
California, and those posts were like everywhere. And I mean, that's just more the real part, and being connected with people on social media, and you get to experience things with them like that.
That's awesome. That is so hilarious. I love a good joke and a little something in the mail. We all love opening up a good package, having that instant gratification. Um, Brayden, I know we're at time. Do you have time for like two more questions?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, perfect. As an experienced recruiter, an award-winning recruiter, would love if you have any advice to share for any prospective travelers, any healthcare workers out there that maybe are thinking about being a traveler, but maybe scared, have heard a lot on TikTok or social media that maybe has, caused a bit of anxiety. I feel like especially now there's just so much content out there, you have a little bit of fear jumping into it. So would love if you have any advice.
The biggest piece of advice that I can give is kind of contrary to the fact that I spend so much time on social media. Don't listen to everything that you read on social media. It's exactly like Yelp. If you looked at like the Yelp reviews, the Amazon reviews for like any product, you would think that everything is basically trying to blow up in your face and kill you at any one time.
Right.
There's a lot of good information, but the problem with social media is everybody has a voice, and that voice has exactly the same amount of value as the next one. And saying that out loud, that sounds weird, but I can type absolutely anything into the internet and it'll
Yeah.
post and you can find it. So take the information that you find as a new traveler with a really solid grain of salt, because
Yeah.
there's a lot out there. Somebody could have gotten burned by an agency or had a very specific situation that they're not necessarily giving you the full details on, and you would just think that every single agency is out to just like ruin your life. Every hospital's like just letting patients drop dead in the streets. It's a scary place. So take all that information with a grain of salt. There's some really good resources that you can use. You can check out like Blue Pipes. They have a top 10 list of agencies. You can check out the Gypsy Nurse. They have top 10. You'll see agencies and hospitals and things like that. You'll see their names popping up over and over again. And that leads to just my second piece of advice. It doesn't have to be me. It should be, but it doesn't have to be me. Find recruiters that you trust. Find one, find two, find three recruiters that you trust, and focus on those relationships, because those people want to take care of you, just like you
Yeah.
want to take care of your patients. And let them, like, there's people that have experience doing this. Let them take care of you. Healthcare workers are the worst people when it comes to letting somebody else take care of y'all. It's what we're here for. It's what a lot of the recruiters are here for. And the good ones, it's where like we really kind of shine is such a dramatic word, but it's what we do. Is like we want to take care of people. So find the people that you connect with and let them take care of you.
I love that. It's definitely true. I feel like as healthcare workers, we're always caring for others. Sometimes we need to learn to let others care for us, be there for us, support us. And I agree. I think finding a recruiter that you really have that friendship with is so important. And on that note, would love to have you share, like, where can people connect with you? How can they find you, call you, understand, what opportunities you have? What's the best way to connect?
Best way to connect, you can find me on Facebook. My name is Braden Boakes. You can find me on Great Recruiters under the TNA Recruiters. So that's a good place. You can see exactly how my nurses feel about me because it's Yelp for recruiters. So check that out. But if you want to just get a hold of me directly, my phone number is 501-451-2321. And then my email is bboex@tna.com.
Amazing. And I wanted to end with kind of how we connected at first and didn't even know it when you got a Lumify light at TravCon. Um, that's just a very small world, I guess, to say the least, because I had no idea that you had a Lumify light, and I definitely am going to send you some to give out to your travelers.
I'm so excited. I loved my Lumify light. I was like a firefly. I was obsessed with that light, and I just kept clicking through the three colors. I'm like, this is so cool. How has this
I
not
love
been a
that.
thing before now?
That's
So yeah, I love
amazing.
it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a small world out here in the healthcare staffing world. I think that's another thing that I've learned is you have resources and you can kind of network and go to conferences, like go on social media. You can find your people that can support you, and I think you're such a great example of that. So thank you so much for being on the Adni Huddle podcast, giving us so many good insights. And definitely, if anyone's listening and interested in being a traveler, hit up Braden. You can find him on all the socials that he mentioned. And thank you again.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me.